So it seems that Lasengal has heard my prayers and my rantings and my ravings, and they've decided to drop upon us benevolently the Imaginary Scramble pre-release campaign. And I'm actually pretty excited because not only is the banner pretty good for this, we get some servant buffs, and we also get some pretty decent login slash limited time master missions that give us 10 Saint Quartz. So overall, it's not that bad of a mini celebration leading in to Imaginary Scramble dropping, which should be soon. Also, something that I'm just going to go ahead and cover right now is that for some reason, when I was covering the Halloween campaign, the live stream details weren't over here. But yeah, we actually know they're going to be doing a live stream on the 26th to cover Imaginary Scramble, because it is literally called Grand Void Sea Battle Imaginary Scramble. So, gee, I wonder what they're going to talk about for that one. But yeah, I know I wasn't able to cover that because for some reason it wasn't updated yet on the wiki, but yeah, in case anybody else missed that, there's going to be a cool little live stream. I might stream that myself, I might not. I'll kind of update you guys in a couple of days and see how I'm feeling and see if I'm actually going to watch that live or whatnot, because it's all information we already kind of know. But maybe there's going to be some hidden banner. I've been hearing stuff about a Melt Lancer slash Archer Artoria banner dropping sometime for Imaginary Scramble, so maybe they'll announce that during the live stream. But before we actually get into all the deets for this pre-release campaign, if you have not already, make sure you leave a like on the video and you subscribe to the channel for that sweet daily FGO content. But if you're like, man, I wish I could just get another heaping helping of ZTL content, well, have no fear, citizen. I actually stream every weekday over on my Twitch, and it's usually FGO. So if you're like, man, I want more FGO content, I got you covered, buddy. But with all that being said, let's go ahead and start diving into this, and we'll first start talking about the new rank up quests that we're going to be getting. Now, the apples are kind of nice, and I kind of advise people to maybe save like your gold apples for the lotto that's going to be coming for Christmas. But if you're not caught up on the story and you need to like get up to Lost Belt 4 to actually play the event, it might not be bad to use some of these apples to catch up a bit, but do also keep in mind you have a bit of time, right? You have some time to actually catch up and get up to date to be able to play the event, right? Because the event's decently fun. As someone who's played it on the JP version of the game, I didn't go too hard on the event, and I never actually finished it, but I did play like most of it, right? And the whole gimmick and everything is pretty fun, right? But so we have 3 buffs here. We have Abigail for some reason. She's not even on the banner, but she's getting a buff. You have Yang getting a buff, and you have MHXX getting a buff. All of these are pretty solid. I think the worst one of the 3 is like Yang's, because Yang's is like something she should have had in the first place, but we'll talk about them in order. So first and foremost, Abigail over here is getting a 30% battery, which just helps her out in being like a farming servant if you need somebody to have that quote-unquote fake 50% battery with her append skill, because if you don't know, you can level up her append skill down here to give her an additional 20%. That 20% starting plus this 30% allows her to NP immediately if you have a 50% battery or starting charge on her with like a CE or something. It also like allows her to combo from like 0% if you're using like a waiver or a Koyan Sky or something. If you need to do that for whatever situation, you need to use some CE, it does allow her to do that. So all in all, this for Abigail is just going to make her a bit more consistent, because if you've ever used Abigail, you know that like she can kind of struggle to get to her NP, because like these arts cards are a little deceptive, and if you're not like critting on them, it can be a little bit rough with Abigail. So yeah, it does definitely help her out a lot, right? Giving her like a pretty decent battery at 30% definitely is going to make Abigail a lot easier to use for a lot of players. So very solid for Abigail. Yang, it just gets the ability, like her taunt for whatever reason was only for males, as you can see, and they were just like, oh yeah, we messed up, let's go ahead and just make it to all enemies, right? It's like, yeah, it should have just been that in the first place, right? Because the utility here is that Yang makes herself invincible and draws everybody to her, so she protects your allies for that turn. And like, God forbid you have a turn where like you have 3 enemies or something and they all want to fire their NP, you just basically make them waste it all unless they have like buff removal or pierce invincibility, then Yang might get obliterated. But in general, it's a really strong skill. It's very similar to like Ortania's Mash is one of her skills, right? Where she has an invincibility plus the taunt, which allows her to kind of protect the party in a way. So that's always really good. And then they give her 10 additional stars over here as well. That's really good. It's going to help her do some like crits and whatnot. Crits are always really good for extra damage, or maybe you just need that little bit of extra NP refund by getting a fat arts crit. So it makes her a bit better, but it's almost something that it's like, yeah, why didn't Yang just have this in the first place? So it seems like they kind of corrected her a little bit, right? And it almost seems like to be something that, I don't know, DW did, because this is obviously a sermon that DW made, right? And it just reminds me of MHX Alter, because MHX Alter was very similar. She released, and we were like, why doesn't she have like a card buff or something? And they're like, oh yeah, here's her card buff, by the way. We gave her a buff like shortly after. And Yang's similar, like, you know, she came out during New Year's, and they're like, maybe we should actually fix this or something. It's like, all right, cool, we finally fixed that up. And then MHXX, this is actually pretty insane, because this makes her one of the hardest hitting arts DPS servants in like the entirety of the game. Like, look at this. She's only out damaged by like Li Xuan, who's pretty notorious for being able to do like one turn of like really insane damage. Estrella, who I think a lot of people have come around to a lot. She's also capable of doing some really strong damage. And then Eris, who is just absolutely bonkers out of her mind. But then they also actually up this 200% from this 150%. So for whatever reason now, she is just absolutely obliterating sabers, right? You're almost just better off bringing her instead of any archer, right? Because that 200% is dummy insane. And God forbid they are a saber threat against humanity. That is kind of ridiculous levels of damage, right? Like, things get really insane very, very quickly. So, you know, I thought she would have been fine if we just gave her the NP damage buff, right? Because, you know, if you don't know, when they buff an NP, they buff up the damage scaling, right? That's why you always get at least damage. Even if the buffs that they assign to the NP aren't there, they at least get more damage. But then they were like, you know what? Just have her kill all the sabers. Just have her obliterate them. And I don't know, it's really strange, because I know the original MHX is like a saber killer, but MHXX is supposed to be hunting down like outer gods and stuff, so you would have thought they would have added like, you know, this against like foreigners, but I guess that's what this is supposed to be. But yeah, whatever. She just becomes bonkers after this. She becomes really nuts, which if you want to summon for her, well, you're in luck, because there is a rotating banner that is going to feature all 4 of these units. Again, very strange that Abigail is getting a buff. She's not on the banner. Frankenstein and Raiko are on the banner, and they could both use a buff. I would say that, like, Frank is actually still pretty fine. I actually still like her kit a lot. I kind of like how she's designed. I think the way she's designed has her set up to age pretty well. Raiko is kind of slipping a little bit, but she's holding on because she does at least have somewhat of a support type role. Like, you could use her as a support DPS, but I would have loved to see them get a buff regardless. But I guess this was during the time when DW was like, no, we refuse to buff any of the summer servants for whatever reason. And I don't know, we'll see if Lisango follows in line with that, unless they're going to start just dropping mad buffs for summer servants. But basically how this works is that Yang is going to be on rate up every single day, and then the 4 stars are going to cycle out. So if you're like me, and in particular you're going to be hunting down MHXX, this is going to be your best chance to actually try and get her. And although the weird thing is that, like, if you summon on this, it's like you're going to get one really good arts DPS one way or the other, because they both basically do the exact same thing, with Yang probably being a little bit better. I know that, like, on the damage chart she's a bit lower, but you got to remember that, like, Yang just does a bunch of like ridiculous stuff, right? But aside from that, we also have the limited master missions, right? These are kind of nice, but I think all we really care about is getting that 10 Saint Quartz. So they're obviously trying to incentivize you to actually get to Lost Belt 4, because you need to complete Lost Belt 4 to actually participate in the event. So they're giving you some apples, and then they're giving you 10 Saint Quartz for actually being able to complete it. But that's pretty much it for the, what's it called? The pre-release campaign. And yeah, I'm wishing everybody luck if you're going to be summoning on these banners over here. I am personally going for the MHXX one. I probably will summon for her on Thursday, I believe, because technically she drops Wednesday night, if I remember correctly, but then, you know, I don't stream at like night time. Like, I'm not going to stream at like 11 p.m. I'll just try to get her the next, you know, the next day that I stream, which will be Thursday. So I look forward to seeing you guys come out for that. Hopefully we get MHXX, but yeah, good luck to all your summons. If you do have these servants, make sure you get them done. All of these buffs are very, very solid. And with all that being said, I will catch you guys in the next video. Peace. Late, guys.